Welcome
to the Bring Me to Life podcast.
It's time to wake up
and shine on. Hello. Welcome to the Bring Me to Life podcast. We're excited that you're here. I'm Shannon Shine.
Hello, Shannon. I am Suleiman, and hello, listeners.
Hello. So today I think we're going to kind of keep feeding off of the rituals topic. It's been going pretty well. I think that there's a lot to talk about there.
Mm-hmm. And it is October.
October's a good month to get rituals going because they say the veil is thin, and it is. It's like a very ominous, like we know winter's coming.
The moon seems brighter because I was outside. I heard coyotes. I looked up. The moon was shining bright, even though it's waxing.
At the time we're recording this, I don't actually have any idea what the moon is right now.
Okay, but for me right now in this moment of the flow, the moon is bright and I love it.
It's beautiful. So, going into rituals, other than howling at the moon, because I haven't had a chance to look at the moon recently, so you've been more of a moon spectator, which is part of a ritual. I'm aware when it's new moon and when it's full moon. I know we're somewhere in between right now. But on a different note, we have many, many rituals. And a practice that I think you would really enjoy talking about is meditation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would like to actually lead just everyone in a very short few-minute meditation real quick. And then kind of explore the topic of meditation and even card readings.
Yeah, I think that'll be fun.
As a form of ritual. So,
real quick, in our last episode, or one of our last episodes, we were talking about connecting in like a spiritual realm. And like, we've had a lot of requests on how to connect with like guides and things.
Mm-hmm.
Is that any chance a meditation you could kind of like lead us in to help us get to that kind of space?
Yeah. So, if we're ready, let's all go ahead and just finish our breath. And then take a deep inhale together. And exhale fully. Just letting go of all that old air. And just imagine yourself sinking down, your body sinking down into the chair or the ground. And just become mindful of your breathing as you imagine this physical world fading away. All your thoughts and feelings, any stress fades away. And you begin to feel yourself tapping more and more into the spiritual realm where you can meet a spirit guide. So imagine that as everything fades away, a portal begins to open up. And this portal will lead you to the spirit realm. You can see this however you would like. Any colors. Just notice how it makes you feel as this portal opens. How does it feel to connect more and more to the spiritual world? And if you have not yet, imagine that this portal is fully open and you walk through it into the spirit realm. Maybe you find yourself somewhere in a crystal cave or in nature. Just allow your imagination to have some freedom. Fully dive into this moment. Pretend as if you're experiencing it in real life. Whenever you're ready, you can call upon a guide by saying, "Dear whatever higher power you believe in, God, universe, I call upon you now, please bring to me one of my spirit guides. And just hold that feeling, hold that belief of what it would feel like to connect to one of your guides. Could be an animal, an angel, an ascended master, something else. And take this time to explore this connection with a guide. For any who may not experience meeting their guide right now, just open up to any signs that begin to come to you, any images or feelings that come to you. Begin to wrap up and imagine for the next few days in your life, signs will show up to you to connect more with this guide. Imagine that portal opens up again. And as you walk through it, you reconnect to your physical body. And just feel yourself breathing. Imagine that oxygen flowing through your body. It's helping to energize your spirit, your mind, and your body. It helps the energy to flow easier. Helps to balance and harmonize your chakras and your aura field. And now come back from the meditation by focusing on your breathing. When you're ready, you can wiggle your toes and fingers, or just move your body, or any way that helps you to come back to your physical senses. Take a deep inhale and a deep exhale. And gently open your eyes. Now that was a form of a ritual to tap into that kind of realm. It could be longer, but I didn't want too long one. I have some longer ones online, but if anybody's interested, just email me if you want more of that. SealmonOfficial@gmail.com.
Nice. So how long have you been meditating as part of your ritual?
As part of my ritual, it's been going on 9 years. 9-10 years now.
You just one day was like, I'm going to meditate?
Well, it was part of that. After the panic attack that I had, I started getting into a podcast. They were talking about meditation, and it piqued my interest. And so I started trying to meditate. I would go and try to meditate, but I couldn't do it because my mind was so busy, and I didn't know what to do. So I eventually, I just found these quick 2-minute meditations, and I started doing those. And eventually it just continued to build longer and longer over time. And I say it's helped me so much. When I was doing a chakra meditation every day, that's probably the best I've ever felt.
How long do you think is the longest you've meditated?
That's a really good question. I'd say about 3 hours would be the longest. So not extremely long, but, based off of where some of these meditations that I've done, where it's pretty exciting. And everybody has their own journey. I'm sure I would love to eventually challenge myself to do like an 8-hour meditation or something. I mean, one day I stayed in this room for about 8 hours, and that was kind of like a meditation. I sat in here and I just laid here, and I let every thought come up, and I just accepted everything, and that I did that for hours. And
kind of like a releasing.
I wasn't even sure how long that one was, and when I was done doing that, I got up and I started writing, and that's like a meditation in itself. Is writing, creative writing, and it's a beautiful thing to channel. So, from like sitting down in a meditation posture perspective, about 3 hours. In the other perspective, I was in here for about 8 hours, and I didn't really leave.
I think there's definitely different meditative states, like different levels of meditating. I've done some decently long ones, not probably that long though. I mean, I've listened to our CDs the whole way through, but that was like a process.
Yeah.
Like a journey of its own.
It is, and you can't. Well, you can, but in my perspective, it's harder to just go straight for a 3-hour meditation. You can, and especially if you're in person in a group, because if you're in a group, then those people who have been meditating will be able to hold the energy down, and it makes it a lot easier. But if you're by yourself trying to do a 3-hour meditation, it's a lot harder.
I used to hate meditating.
Yeah.
I used to just, like, meditating was not my spiritual vibe. Like, I'll sit and I'll talk to the angels and, like, entities and, like, channel things, but, like, sitting alone and pure silence it was almost like I didn't know how to turn them off either. So that's part of it, was I had to really train my brain to let go. And just, it was almost like building a boundary, being like, this is my silent time to just connect with the full spirit of energy. And once I got my inner chatter to kind of calm down, it made meditating a lot easier. I don't know if I would have pushed through it though if I didn't have a strong meditative community and you reminding me that it was a really important part of my daily practice. And then every time I get off of a routine meditative practice, I end up joining like some course, or I'll win some like free masterclass with someone or something. And the message the universe always gives me is like, you need to meditate and journal more. Like every time, that's basically the message. I'm always like, I need to sign up for these things. They're going to teach me so much. And I'm like thinking they're going to give me these resources that I've been like thinking I'm lacking. And then it's just the same message. It's like the universe really wants us to meditate and to journal and to release and like document. We mentioned this in a different podcast too. Like documenting and journaling is so important. The people that we think are brilliant, or even if they were brilliant for their time and have now been disproven, the reason we know anything about them is because they recorded it. They had journals. They made maps of their life.
If you don't record your life and you let somebody else do it, then who knows what they could write.
Yeah, like keep track of your thoughts and like monitor your existence, and not like micromanage it, just like be aware of how much you're growing and like allowing yourself to participate. And meditation's a great way to do that.
Even if you had to start with one sentence, which is what I have to do when I get back into it after I stop for a long time, and then I'll have to just start writing one sentence, even if it's a few words. And eventually, if you can continue to do that every day, it will build to a few sentences, to a paragraph. It'll add up as you continue to build that momentum and build that into a routine and a habit that brings about your movement forward on your path.
Momentum is key. Yeah, you definitely like build up to things. Like we were recording just a little bit here and there, and then we really like it built like things snowball until it's sometimes in a good way, so that you can like build that energy. Like you don't just get into yoga doing crazy poses and handstands and like things like that. You've got to like work into it.
It makes it a lot smoother of a transition. I know some people who love to get just thrown into the fire, but for most people, it's okay to build that up, because brick by brick you build a wall, and then wall by wall you build a cathedral.
And we're building those like inner temples, and that's why we want to have rituals, is so that we can like take care of ourselves and celebrate ourselves. So you mentioned in that meditation connecting with your aura and your chakras. So kind of getting off the ritual topic for a little bit and just talking about energy, since we're talking about like meditation and yoga. A lot of these different modalities, I think that's the proper term I should be using, it's a process of understanding energy, how energy works, and connecting it to the chakra system, which is kind of a term for our inner computer, our emotional system, our physical connections. Like the chakra system has to do with so much from different perspectives, and like I love talking about the chakra system.
Life. They're so huge.
Yeah, but I feel like I come at it at a different angle than most people. Most people are like, this is the Sanskrit word and this is the yoga move, but I'm more like, I want to talk about how it affects our emotions and like how it is our programming, because I kind of see life as a video game.
I just had an idea, like it kind of seems almost in a computer you have all this hardware running and it gets hot and you need the fans to blow the air out, and maybe they're kind of like fans to our computer that's helping to blow the energy back around and out. And
Meditation?
Fan. No, the chakras.
Oh, the chakras, well, they're gears.
Yeah, gears and fans.
It's a machine, and they're gears, and they have these different kind of like machines have belts, like you know how vacuums have belts and stuff. So like in a recent episode, we talked about how the throat chakra and the sacral chakra are really connected. So imagine them as gears in a machine that have a belt that connect them very like solidly, like one works with the other. Now, all the other chakras are also very intertwined. So our sacral and our solar are also very intertwined, because it's our relationships to like family, as well as our relationships to our intimate partners or our children and things like that. So, and to be able to handle any of those, we need to be grounded in our root chakra. And if we want to have a deeper connection with spirit on why we're here, we have to be able to connect those lower chakras to the upper chakras, which is where our heart chakra comes in. It's like the key to the upper and lower dimensions, like as above, so below. So if we can feel a deeper connection to spirit and our purpose of being here, and we're willing to open our intuition and follow the actual messages that were being channeled through meditation, through dreams, through our daily life experiences, the people that we talk to, things like that, then we are opening our heart to having faith in this perception. Now, again, this is like my understanding of the chakra. That's why I think I come at it at a different angle, because some people are like, well, it's really more connected to the yoga and how we access our body. Well, I feel like our emotions are key, because if we're actually really spirit, then if we can focus on why our spirit has come here to exist in a certain way, to be brought to life in the physical form, and then we understand that we're having these emotions. We're like spiritual beings having a physical experience, so we can process emotions and bottled up theologies that we've had over lifetimes, and we can focus on the why we feel the way we do about certain things. Then we can understand why certain things happen to us physically. So like somebody, for example, let's say in past lives, I have had my voice and like being able to talk as freely as I am right now kind of taken from me. So when I was a younger child, when I reincarnated back into this world, I didn't speak as much or as clearly. It took me a little while. Like I loved reading, things like that, and my communication was different than it is now, where I don't stop talking, because it was still closed off from being like, I don't know. In one of my past lives, I visual having like my throat cut because they didn't like what I had to say. I had
I feel like I have an experience where I had myself hung, and that's really blocking the throat chakra.
Right, and I've had experiences where I would share my visions, and they burnt my eyes. That's why I have a birthmark on my eye.
Yeah.
We'll talk about all those in a past life episode at some point. But so these things happened in these different lifetimes that I've experienced, and I've found this out through trying to process this trauma and why I was the way I was and am. And by understanding that, I can understand that also when I was a child, and my voice was stifled then, I also used to get strep throat all the time. My throat was so sore from, like, you know how you get a lump in your throat when there's something you want to say and you want to say it so bad and you don't say it? Imagine that for like your like first basically 6 years of life. And like,
so you weren't talking as a kid?
I was talking, but so I would tell my family things that they didn't like because I was having visions. So I was talking to like my imaginary friend archangels that have helped me now, and I've realized they're archangels. And so they keep telling me everything I'm saying is wrong. So I would talk, but I wasn't feeling heard. So at some points I wouldn't talk. I would just talk in my mind with these other energies because everyone around me was like, I don't want to hear it. So, but when that would happen, I would get the lump in my throat and it would cause me to have strep throat. And it would always happen like 6 times or so. And they would always say, if this happens one more time this season, it would usually happen around winter. Yeah, I know it's cold, but it was also like by the end of the year, it was like a yearly cycle. And I feel like I leveled up each year with my confidence in my throat chakra and in my like sacral chakra, growing as like a creative person. And I would start to develop this, and as soon as they were like, we're gonna take her tonsils out, I was like, I'm just gonna talk. And then like all through for like, it would go like in spurts, like 3 months I just wouldn't stop talking, like
because they said they were gonna take your tonsils out.
Yeah,
and you didn't want it to happen.
It would boil up, so I would just like, I remember starting to talk, and I remember like basically one of the only times my family took me to therapy through all of me talking to spirits and things was when I finally just like I went from not talking at all, and they were like, maybe that's how she's processing like these deaths and things, and it was more like, no dude, I'd love to talk to you guys, but like I don't feel heard. What's the point of me sharing things with you?
Because you shared it with them and they didn't want to hear it. So it's like, well,
so it built up in a physical way. Anyway? So it built up in a physical way. And then I've seen other people that have like throat cancers and things like that it's built up over time. Like there's something that's developed in them where they're not using their voice.
They feel like they can't express themselves.
And then there's people that there's these like diseases and things that will build up in like the sexual area. Yeah. So like cancer in like your ovaries or your testicles, anything like that. Yeah. And it's like they have such a buildup of their sexuality, or they're embarrassed of who they are, or there's so many different like emotional reasons, but these things build up because we retain this worry within us. We hold this stuff into our spirit, and our spirit can't handle it. And it's like, I'm here to have a physical experience, so if you're not gonna like express yourself and come here to learn the lesson you're supposed to learn, we're gonna show you that you need to pay more attention in this area. And then something starts happening on a physical level.
Yeah, but it's tough in this world because it's starting to change, but before it's begun to change, the way the healthcare system operates is not to help.
Well, yeah, that doesn't help either. How many doctors are like, have you checked in with your chakras? Have you checked in with your emotions? They don't even say like, how do you, like, they'll say, how do you feel? But it's because they want you to say on a scale 1 to 10 and they can start prescribing you more medication. People like average doctors don't focus on the full picture. They just focus on the physical, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Not every doctor, but a lot of them, they want that pharmaceutical paycheck.
I've kind of noticed it more here than anywhere else I've lived. It's so interesting how a lot of people have the same kind of issues, and they all have the same kind of answers. We don't know. Let's take some blood work.
I had a doctor
Let's
once tell
prescribe
me
you
I
some
was
pills.
low in vitamin D. So her recommendation was for me to eat more ice cream.
Yeah.
And I'm also like borderline lactose intolerant. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of
She didn't
different...
even say what kind of ice cream.
She wanted me to get vitamin D. So.
Any kind of ice cream. Any kind of ice cream.
But like, who tells somebody that?
Apparently doctors.
She also kept trying to up my prescriptions to things that I wasn't even taking because it's like, I don't need that.
Yeah. So
People go to the ER and
mess
they
up.
get opiates, and then the people around the area wonder why there's such an opiate problem. It's
I
like,
know.
well, when people were going to the ER and that's what everybody's prescribing, and then they get addicted to them, and then there's just an
That's why.
influx of them on the streets.
That's why marijuana is becoming legal.
Yeah, I think that it's like, I mean, it makes more sense for us to appreciate plants. Plants were here naturally, and they're here to like help us.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny to me that
Cannabis.
people are like, oh, God created everything. Well, why would he create everything and not create like ways to heal us?
Why would you create a plant that our body specifically has receptors for?
Right. And mushrooms too, though. Like,
Yeah.
if it's a plant, God created it, universe created it, it's created into our ecosystem. I mean, he creates poisonous plants too, but why put this chemical that has all these known side effects to
More than
create more pain and agony?
treats sometimes.
Yeah, like, oh, it helps your blood pressure, but it makes you suicidal? What? Okay. Why would you take things like that? I'm not telling people to just like drop their medications, do what's right for you, disclaimer, but
Just make sure you know what's helping and what's hurting.
yeah, like be aware.
Look into healthy alternatives.
Check into
Do your own research.
Yeah, look into your chakras. Get your chakras.
We're not
in
professionals.
check.
Hey, we're not professionals in the medical industry.
No, but we are energy practitioners.
We are certified energy practitioners.
And when I have people are like, you don't like going to doctors, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I've been able to see energy and auras since I was little. So it's something that I scan my body to figure out where the pain's coming from. I'm really stubborn because even when I'm sick and things are happening to me in like a physical way, I usually know why. It's just, I'm like, okay, so the universe wants me to like process through this. But it's because I've done so much research on the chakras, and I've done it on metaphysical representations into the physical world and the aura and the body's energy field. We've taken a couple energy medicine classes, and then I've also done my own research because I was like, I questioned that. I question everything, really. I think that's part of a waking up too, and building your own spiritual map.
Yeah, you have the ability to feel things out for yourself. What resonates, what doesn't. That guides you to who you are in this life.
Yeah, exactly. And by being able to tune into the energy of what does resonate with you is really important. I mean, you can do that with people. You can do that with treatments. You can do that with making any sort of choices, like feeling that deeper resonance.
Kind of like, it's like a tingling sensation. There's times where I ask myself certain questions based on if I feel like I'm, what I can feel a tingling sensation. I'll close my eyes. I'll put all my awareness on my body, and I'll be like, am I supposed to do this? And if it's like the right path for me, then I can feel a tingling, a very, very light tingling all through my body. And then when I say a different way, and it's not the right way for me, then I can almost feel my energy drop a little bit. You can kind of feel your energy drop, like, say, if you're really happy, and then while you're really happy, you get news that brings you down, and you can feel your energy, like your vibration, go down.
And that's what basically feeds your aura too, and how you can protect yourself better too. So if you're feeling more high vibe, you're feeling more in tune, it is easier to put your boundaries up and your blocks. And you got to kind of practice with that, because it's usually when you're down and feeling in a kind of a rut that you need to be putting those boundaries up. So it takes a little practice. Working with the aura has been really interesting. So there's actually like 7 layers of the aura.
Yeah, the aura. It's quite amazing working with the aura. You get into chakras. That was like I got into chakras before the aura. And the chakras are life-changing. And then the aura all connected to the chakras. It's like a whole nother aspect.
Well, it's kind of connected to the chakras in some way, but I believe we really kind of touch into the chakras into like the second, I think it's the second layer of the aura. So there's the 7 layers of the aura, and the first one is like the etheric body. It's the one that's the blueprint. It's the one that I think you might have been feeling your tingling.
The grid?
Yeah, it's what I call the personal grid. So we have the grid of the universe, and then we have our personal grid.
So when people are making games, it has the triangles.
The very, very beginning, like
and
when
it
you
looks
see
all
a character in their
blocky.
grid. Yep, that's your etheric first layer of your aura.
Would that be like the seed of life?
Kind of, yeah, because it's like when you're still a fractal.
Yeah.
Like, basically, like, the very first part of you that's, like, channeled into your mother's womb, or however you're channeled into the universe. Like, that's the etheric layer. And it starts building up this physical blueprint of you. And it connects you to your root chakra. It's what helps you feel grounded into the spiritual experience that we call life.
Sorry.
Whoa, shaking the whole studio.
My bad.
And it's connected to our survival, because it's when this energy that is you channels through the universe and it starts wanting to survive here. It's like your connection to wanting to survive, your blueprint, your energetic blueprint of life.
This is the 7th layer?
No, this is the first layer.
Okay. First aura layer.
We're starting in the first layer with the very first, the blueprint. And your beginning of existence is connected to your root.
Okay.
And it's called the etheric layer.
The
And
etheric.
it's a major part of your immune system.
Is that also pronounced the etheric?
Probably.
Okay.
I'm terrible at pronouncing things.
It could be people.
Probably etheric.
You know, people pronounce things different ways, and who knows what was right when they first came.
When I first tried to figure out how to say Kundalini, I was like, Kundalini?
Kundalini?
Like what?
Kundalini.
Yeah, like what? But it takes, it's the concepts that matter, like understanding the process of
I
it.
love that word, though, Kundalini.
We'll talk about that sometime.
Ooh,
It
Kundalini
connects
awakenings.
the chakras and the aura. But let's talk about the aura. Let's stay focused on just this, because I think people want to know about it. People keep asking us about the aura and the chakras.
Yeah. I think it's very divine to know about the aura, and some people can tap in and see them. And I had to, just like lucid dreaming, had to train to see them. But once I did, it was pretty magical seeing a purple aura around a bird as it flies around in the sunset, leaving a trail of its energy behind it. It's super cool.
Well, that's good segue, because now we can talk about the second layer. The second layer of the aura system is the emotional body. And now let's say that bird might have been a different color that represented something else to you. Purple probably represents like connection and divinity and like being connected to source, and it was flying, so it was probably channeling its existence through source to be a flying beautiful bird. And you started to see its aura. And I think the second layer, the emotional body, is where I start to be able to see those energies around people, because so I call it auras, but I think I'm really reading like their emotional map, because I can feel like I could tell when people were getting mad at me, or I could tell if they weren't mad at me, I could tell that something was upsetting them. I think that's why I'm always like, what's wrong? And people are always like, stop asking me what's wrong. How'd you know? Like nothing has to be wrong. And I'm like, but I can see it in your energy field that something's like processing in there. So it's in that emotional
People who are
body.
sensitive can pick up on that stuff.
Well, yeah, and
Especially empaths.
Yeah, empaths, I like the word, but I don't, because I feel like it's getting overused and people are kind of starting to make
Do you
fun
think
of it.
everybody is more?
I do.
Empathic?
I think it's just like our part of our
Empathy.
sixth sense. But people are like starting to make fun of it, and they're like, "Oh, everybody thinks they're an empath. Oh, you're just sensitive." And it's like, I think it's just, you guys need to realize that most humans care about how other humans care.
We're all
Is it
evolving.
not most humans?
We're all evolving to become probably more sensitive, and I've noticed more psychic connection and telepathy and stuff
empathy,
like that happening.
yeah, and empathy is deeper than just sympathy. It's like actually being able to connect and like understand, or wanting to understand, not just oh, I feel bad for that
We're
person.
also
It's like
connected.
a processing. Yeah, so that's the second layer, is your emotional body, and understanding those emotions and understanding the emotions in other people, and it starts building up. So once you realize you're a spirit here, you start building this blueprint of how you're going to enter the world. You then add your emotional senses, that sensory system that can feel almost like good and bad in a way. The movie Inside Out is such a good representation of some of this. We started rewatching it. It's such a beautiful movie to explain these kind of things to kids.
So they would be in the third?
Kind of, yeah. They're running that body for her with the different emotions. The characters are the different emotions.
And they're basically guiding her life.
Right. And it's funny because in Inside Out, they have different islands that they're in control of, that they feed the memories from. And those islands are the chakras. They're like, it's the beginning to connect with the chakras. So she doesn't have like
joy.
Joy would be your heart chakra. But the emotions themselves are more like the connection to your emotional body, or their spirit guides in a way, that are channeling these different emotions for her. But they feed them from these islands that connect to like the chakras, because like there's one that's like the family island, and I'm like, oh well, that's like the solar plexus chakra. And then there's one that's like the goofball communication island, and it's like a combination of how she self-expresses, and I'm like, oh, that's like her throat mixed with her third eye. And it's like it shows how these energies work together to create a life. So it's kind of the emotional body. But they're very connected to the next layer. So the third layer is the mental body. And the mental body is where we start to run and store the programs. And in that movie, they do this too. And it's associated with just our basic belief systems. So it's our third layer, where we're also our reproductive layer. Because if you're connecting it to chakras, that would be your sacral chakra.
Oh.
So that's what your mental body is connected to, is your sacral chakra, and how you process your personal power and understanding of the world.
Yeah. There's a lot of personal power connecting to that, and that's probably why self-expression is so huge and creativity is so huge.
Right? It's the layer of ideas. And creativity is like a process of ideas.
Yeah.
And it allows us to basically begin to process thought. And the cool thing about this layer is it's kind of like orangish yellow in tones. So like I see the emotional layers as like kind of colors around them, but then there's this other glow around people when they're processing thoughts, and it's almost like a halo. So in like the pictures of Jesus where he's got like the big yellow light beam coming out of his head.
Yeah.
And that's like how a lot of like brighter, bigger entities are like represented, as like they have this ominous like crown.
Man,
that is the representation of the mental body aura. It's the aura of thought. So it's like, and it's also where we get the concept of a light bulb going off, because it's like a light of the aura in the mental body.
Somebody sent me an article. Annabelle sent me an article about just these photons in people's like brains, basically, and the more divine they were, the more they had. So that's pretty cool to think about. It could have also basically been like that. Like
it's like we do have a spark that goes off that lights us up, and then when that spark goes off, it sends out an aura vibration, so that you see that in that person. Like it's almost like you can see someone have an idea, and it's just like, oh, it's like in Scooby-Doo when she's like Jinkies. It's like she bounces with excitement.
Man, it would be crazy to just see like all the different colors lighting up around people as things evolve.
And I mean, it's still kind of like a video game.
It is a video game.
So
We don't need any kind of special glasses. Like, things are getting
it's
crazy.
getting crazy up in here.
It's getting crazy.
Getting a little weird.
Whoa.
So
Halloween weird.
it is. So we have the fourth layer. The fourth layer is the astral layer of the body.
Yeah, the astral layer.
It's connected to the heart.
Yeah.
That's why we say the heart is our key to our upper and lower chakras. It marks the division between our physical layers and the bigger, like, spiritual layers. So up until about this point, our aura is started inside of us. It's like this energy orb that's like within our physical body. And now it's starting to feed out of us. And it's starting to be like why we shock people. You know how sometimes you just shock things?
Yeah.
It's like a reaction in the universe that's coming from the fourth layer and the fifth layer. So they're very intertwined. So the fourth layer is the astral layer, and it's the division between the physical and the astral.
It's where spiritual energy becomes physical matter.
And we start to channel what we want on a spiritual level into the physical.
So would you say it's where the grid becomes the body?
And it's where our sense of touch starts to begin. So it's basically kind of like the skeleton system in a way. Because
the heart is so powerful.
Then the fifth layer is the conceptual body. It's how we're perceived by others. It's the energy that we put off that others download that is us. And it's the spiritual part of us that's created by conception of self-expression in our throat chakra and the way we communicate and the way that we are heard. So we talked about in other episodes how we sound different when we record ourselves. We sound different to every single person we talk to, and every single person has a different download of us.
Yeah.
We're different to every single person we hang out with. To my brother, I'm a sister.
Reality
to
is
you, I'm a lover.
subjective.
It is. Like,
we live in our own worlds, in our own dreams. Part of what the Buddha is saying, like, this is my dream.
And people don't see the same side of other people all the time. So, like, somebody that I'm really good friends with, you might not be able to stand. And that's never happened. But, like, it's like a process. and it's just like, so it's baffling to me that somebody, like, every single person has a different perception of you. And we're our hardest critics. So the fifth layer is the conceptual body, and it's how other people start to see us, and it's how our DNA starts to be programmed. So our DNA is actually within the lower chakras, but the programming comes from the heart chakra and the throat chakra, and how we receive the communication with the worlds around us. And those are the layers where we can start to feel the shocking and the connection, the sense of touch.
Zip.
And it's in this basic template that is how we create our uniqueness and our identity. So then the last two layers, like the upper two chakras, and these are just focusing on the 7 main chakras and the 7 layers. It can actually go beyond this. You can actually go all the way to, like, oh man, I think the chakra system has like 147 something, like, mini chakras, and like ones that connect you to the stars. But this is where you want to start if you're, like, just getting into it.
The 7 major chakras and the 7 major layers of the aura.
And you can do it on your own research. These are just, like, the ways that I've processed it. So then there's the 6th layer, which is the celestial body.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
And in this body of is the emotional level on a spiritual existence. So it's like how we process things. And our angels can start to interact more with our auras in that way, because they can't interact as physically usually. And it's this level of communication with other energies. So this is when people can start getting in your bubble. It's in the celestial body, and then just the oversoul, which is your 7th layer. And that's kind of like your avatar. Like when you connect with that celestial and solar, or not solar, like the soul level, it's like connecting in a more avatar state, and like understanding that your energy affects my energy, which affects anybody's energy that we connect with, and you can send that aura out into the universe.
It'd be huge.
I think that's where people start using energy healing through time and space.
Man,
using that celestial body.
That's beautiful. And Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's an episode where Aang goes into the Avatar state, and he goes to this bridge, and this bridge leads to his avatar body, his celestial body, and it's literally like a giant, sparkly, huge body out in space, surrounded by stars and galaxies.
Is that the same episode your avatar meditation came from?
It might, yeah, I think so.
Because it's like through that meditation, he reaches his avatar state.
Yeah.
So Seal has a meditation that's based off of the Avatar cartoon, and it's like one of my top favorite meditations, especially to get into the chakra system, because it just explains it in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, there's a 10-minute version, which reached 30,000 on YouTube.
Nice.
And then I made a longer one that's 30 minutes because people wanted more time in between each chakra.
Nice. Go check him out.
Each
They're on his
phrase.
YouTube. Silamon.com. Silamon.com.
I'm Silamon Official on YouTube.
Yeah, but Silamon.com also goes to your YouTube.
Yeah, it does. For right now. It depends on when they're listening. Because this could go forever. Who knows? What if in the future, 300 years from now, people are listening to this?
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
So we talked about the energy field. We talked about auras. We talked about meditation. So go ahead.
I was going to say there's something that you do that a lot of people enjoy, and it's a ritual.
We're going to go back to rituals. Okay. Yeah, I have a couple of different things I do. So one that I like to do to help bring a visual to other people is my oracle cards. And they're a little different than tarot. I like the understanding and the concept of tarot, but it's a little different than my style of reading. So part of my ritual is using the cards as a visual representation of the messages I'm being channeled. And I get these through basically the celestial body while I'm reading for people, or when I read for the collective, which if you want, I can pull a card for the collective.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome.
Let me see which deck I have around here. So
give everyone an example of what this is like. I think some people are totally open to it, and I think some others are a little hesitant and unsure of what it is.
So, well, that's why I wanted to explain how I do it. So tarot is more of like this connection to a very specific timeline. It's like adapting that there's one timeline and that it's destiny, and there's like the death card, and that's just not my vibe. My vibe is that we can change our reality by understanding something. Like you say this all the time, like I had a premonition, but as soon as I told somebody, it changed my reality, because you did.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get card readings, it's so you can take a moment to ask the universe for a message and to allow it to serve you a purpose so that you can make the choice yourself. So the universe doesn't mind giving you messages because it gives you free will. And some people, like religion, usually is like, don't do card readings because that's being unfaithful. And it's like, no, it's not being unfaithful. It's almost like a cheat code in the reality that's like, well, you have this destiny for me and I appreciate it. Can you show me what my options are? Or can I just like check in and make sure I'm on the right path? I like warnings. So it helps me see what's coming. And this is funny. So I have this deck. I just got it not too long ago, like over the summer. I try not to get too many new decks because I feel really attached to the very first deck I ever got. Somebody once told me that I needed to be gifted my first deck. I don't know if that's true for everybody. People ask me all the time, like, is it bad to buy my own deck? I buy my own decks all the time now, but once upon a time, somebody told me that I needed to wait until I was gifted my first deck. But I think that's because I was really overwhelmed and I didn't know which deck to get. So that's what the universe's answer was just be patient and we'll figure it out for you. And then I got one and it changed my life. And that was years ago. Divine
timing.
And this summer I got another one. This one's called the Sacred Rebels deck. And it's an oracle, and it's got really beautiful art. Yeah. And I just pulled a card for the collective. And the card is an entity with animals and butterflies. Butterflies has been a big topic in the collective
Yeah.
recently. This transformation of spreading our wings and remembering that a butterfly was once a caterpillar, and caterpillars go through such a transformation. We're always like, oh yeah, the caterpillar becomes a beautiful butterfly. But first it
Yeah.
wraps itself in this crazy
Gets grossy.
crazy cocoon, and then it
Ugh.
turns to mush.
Mucusy.
Completely has to forget everything it thought it knew and was to become this beautiful new entity.
Yeah. Have you seen, it's either ants or a bug's life, and there's this huge
Seen both.
caterpillar, and at the
Oh,
very end of the
yeah.
movie he just sprouts little tiny wings.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about. He's one of my favorites.
So funny.
But he still becomes a butterfly.
He does.
And he's still, I think, I mean, it's his mindset. Maybe it's he was really afraid he wouldn't get any wings, so then he at least got wings.
Yeah.
But this card I pulled for the collective just now, it comes from the Sacred Rebels deck, and it says, trust yourself.
Yeah.
It says, believe in who you are and allow yourself to channel that divine expression. It says to, and I say it says, but I'm just admiring the card. So I like to get cards with a lot of art. And again, on this one, there's butterflies, there's hummingbirds, which have been really a big thing for me lately. And then there's also a snake, which represents that kundalini, that awakening, that earthing. There's also various cats, and I've been channeling how like cats are very zen and tuned in and allowing themselves to just exist and be present here in the world. And then there's also just this, she's got like kind of like warrior makeup on her face in the card. And to me, that represents that she's been going through this transition or this experience that was either spiritual for her. It could be from like a ceremony, or it could be from going through a battle. So for the collective, that could mean either of those things.
Yeah. I feel sometimes when we get scrapes and bruises, I wonder what's going on with the other timelines.
Right. I mean, I talked about that
Can
in
I
a
see
different
that picture?
podcast. Yeah, you can look at it. It's number 31 too, for those that are like numbers. So there's like numerology, and angels talk through numbers and stuff too. So that's something else that I really got into during my awakening. I don't know if it's a ritual.
Whoa.
But I guess a ritual that I do have is like making wishes during 11/11 and 2/22 and things like that.
Man, this is a beautiful card.
I love these cards. They're so pretty. And it just says trust yourself. It says remember that you're wise. It represents knowing how to grow.
It's a dragonfly in there too.
Yeah, even if you don't know how that you know. It's believing in something and having faith. And like the ancients in the forest, and there were these galaxies that just they admired, and they followed the stars, and they trusted themselves to just go into the ether and create this reality. Like imagine being one of the very, very first souls in the timeline and having to be able to trust yourself to go out into the world and to create what's around you, because they didn't really have a map.
And it's I still think that goes on today. People are still looking to be the first to do something, like to be like, you know, someone new who does something completely new and changes the history of our civilization.
It's crazy how just allowing new perspectives in.
Yeah.
Realizing that we know nothing. Like we just sat here and we talked about all these different things that we believe we know and that have helped us. And they are definitely rituals, practices, methods, whatever you want to call them, that help us as spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah.
But in the reality,
We could listen to this 5 years and not even resonate with some of it.
I mean, 5 years ago when we started the podcast, I never thought meditation was going to help me either.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not for me. I never thought I'd get into yoga at all. things change.
Things do change. I go back and I think it's fun to watch those episodes because they look hilarious. They sound pretty good though. But they look hilarious.
I watched one recently and it was hilarious. I actually looked older than I feel like I look now.
Yeah.
But I also just was terrified that, one, people would think I was crazy, and two, I had that, it's called like, it's like basically being a perfectionist. Like I wanted to be so sure of myself in like these spiritual topics. And I'm here to tell you that if I waited until we were sure, then we would never do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
We would just always question ourselves. We're here to show up, and we're here to just witness and channel and express things that have helped us on our journey.
Yeah. Yep. And that's, sometimes you just got to show up. You don't got to know up, meaning it doesn't matter what kind of equipment you have. The Wright brothers, they didn't have nearly the equipment, the resources that the other people did trying to create the plane, but they did it because they had a belief, they had a why, and they were passionate, and they did it because their intent was so pure. And yeah.
What is your why? That's a beautiful one. I think that's a good future topic. Might not be the next topic. We have so many topics we've been building up through these discussions, so I'm excited to just keep the season going. But I think we've covered a lot of different things. You could hop in the Bring Me to Life challenge and tell us what your why is. You could hop in there and talk about your experiences understanding auras, chakras. Let us know how Suleiman's meditation affected you at the beginning. And yeah, we want to hear from you. Let us know where you're watching. What else do you have to say?
I have so much to say that I will just leave it at this. What you're doing right now is what you need to be doing to get to where you're going, and to where you're going is what you're thinking and what you're acting upon.
Making action, taking action, focus on what truly matters.
Yes. Have patience, persistence, and stay in the right mind. I like to use positivity just because I love life.
I love life too. I've been feeling pretty grateful lately.
Definitely.
So I'm going to keep feeling grateful. I hope that you have a great rest of your day whenever you're listening. And yeah, stay awake, shine on always.
Namaste.
Bye.
For many of us, spirituality is just the quest to find essence or true meaning, and to really just connect with a higher consciousness.
Connecting with your spirituality is very important in this life. By becoming mindful of all of it, you can realize where you are and if that is leading you to where you want to go.
Listen to the little simple things, because it's those little simple things that are going to shift you vibrationally in such a way that will prepare you to become very intuitively minded and ready to step forward on the next part of your path.
I hope you can feel the love that's inside you, that's inside me, that connects us.
Thanks for shining on with us.